Hi, I'm new to this site and I'm not sure if this is allowed in the category. If so, feel free to remove it. Anyways, I am currently starting to fear for my coworker's life. Here's the story. My coworker, I will call her Jane, is 33 years old, a virgin, and a very devout Christian. Her family is very strict and very religious. I'm not bashing on their religion in any way. I was raised a Christian myself. These people, though, they just seem to take their beliefs to a new extreme. Think of them as the Flanders from The Simpsons. I mentioned that Jane is a virgin because she has honestly never even had a boyfriend before. She's been on a few dating websites as of late, but she's usually very strict when it comes to the types of guys she would date. She can be kind of stuck up, which has gained her very little popularity. She recently meets a guy on OkCupid, let's call him Miguel. Miguel claims to live in a bigger city than ours, an hour away. We are in the middle of nowhere in Kansas, and that he is 35 years old, claims to be a virgin, and takes an interest in Jane. They chat for a while. She's very excited. Once they establish a fondness for each other, he claims that he has a $250,000 in savings and a job at Cessna that pays $65 an hour. He has a nice apartment and 2 cars, one of which is a '69 Dodge Charger. Sounds too good to be true, right? We all agree. Everyone but her. They agree to meet for a first date, and he says he'll drive down to see her. While driving down here, he claims to get into an accident on the interstate and is left hospitalized. Jane is devastated. The rest of us, who she was telling this to, all just assume that he was lying to her, and this was his way of getting out of the date and her finding out that he was scum. We didn't think there'd be any more communication afterwards. We were wrong. They continued talking, and shortly after getting out of the hospital, he claimed he was hit by a car crossing the street. His life apparently took a turn for the worst, as he claimed he was laid off from Cessna, his apartment was burglarized, and all of his money and his car were seized by the IRS due to a misunderstanding in his taxes from a few years back. Completely believable stories, right? Much to our dismay, Jane decides she doesn't care about these things and she is willing to continue talking to the man. He soon starts calling her daily and coming over once a week to visit her at work. At this point, we get to meet this guy, and he comes off as your typical loser with a beer belly who lays around on the couch all day yelling at his women to bring him a beer. Despite all of the money he claims to have, he wears clothes that are way too big for him, usually sweatpants and flip-flops. This earned him the nickname Flip-Flops amongst us at work. He has problems making eye contact with people when he talks to them, and has the creepiest smile. We know right away that he doesn't seem very trustworthy. 3 weeks into their relationship, he shows up at our work and proposes to Jane. She gladly agrees, as we all shake our heads in disbelief. He tells us he got a new job working for Microsoft down in his city. We did our research, there is no Microsoft jobs over there, unless you're working and selling products at Best Buy. And he tells her that he's now seeing a therapist for his anger and jealousy issues. Many red flags are going off in our heads at this point, but Jane doesn't seem to mind any of it. He moves down here to be with her, after claiming that his family disowned him for wanting to marry a Christian. He claims they're all devout Catholics, and that's the reason why she'll never get to meet them. As if this isn't ridiculous and over the top enough, things start to get creepier from here. He tells us that he has a new job for $25 an hour as the head engineer at Exide Manufacturing. The head of HR at Exide is actually a relative of a friend of ours, so we asked her about this. They never heard of this man, and the position he claims he has doesn't exist. We try to tell Jane about it, but she brushes off all of our comments and claims that we are thinking too much about it, or we are just jealous. He starts picking her up and dropping her off from work every single day, as well as picking her up for all her lunches. She still believes he has a full-time job and that he's only doing this because of how much he loves her. We start to feel that he's just wanting to know where she is at all times. He asked the maintenance man at our work, after their first meeting, to be the best man at his wedding. This doesn't strike Jane as odd, because apparently Miguel is just untrusting of most people and has no friends of his own. They all want him for his money. Her parents loan him their spare van so he can use that to drive from now on. To our shock, her parents are already buying baby clothes and supplies for the couple. They are completely won over by the man. I think they're just blinded by the fact that their daughter finally has someone and will give them grandkids, which is a really sad thought. By this point, we've noticed her personality growing slightly more stressed and depressed as time goes on. Now, if you've read up to this point, you're probably thinking, oh, she's just another dumb girl who picked up a sleazeball guy who's milking her for all she's worth. And you're definitely not wrong. We all thought the same thing, until she one day dropped this little bomb on us. He has just recently told her that he used to be spec ops in the military, the Air Force to be exact, and they've decided that they want him to work for them again. They'll pay him $75,000 for working 3 days, 3 weeks, 3 months. The story always changes, something she doesn't find suspicious at all. Testing military equipment that's too dangerous and could be life-threatening. He agrees to the work, and we all think he's copping out of the relationship. She then tells us that if she wishes to remain in contact with him, they'll have to get married as soon as possible, and she'll have to be prepared to move away with him. She explains that the military has been calling her and making stops at their house to explain to her that she'll have to marry him immediately, and she needs to be prepared to move to an undisclosed location at any given moment. From that location, she'll not be allowed to make any contact with friends or family, since all that is going on is top secret, and she has to prove that she can be trusted. Obviously, all of us are now alarmed. Everyone but her and her family. They are delighted that she's with a military man and are proud that she gets to be a part of something much bigger. The rest of us, sane people, are trying to figure out what on earth he can be plotting. Is she going to be hijacked into human trafficking? Is he going to murder her? One of our coworkers has just called the human trafficking hotline, and they think that this definitely sounds like something they've seen before. Unfortunately, they can't do anything about it until he actually makes a move and takes her. We're looking into contacting our local police to see if there's anything that can be done about this, before she gets the phone call that tells her when they have to make their move. This is all so crazy. We don't know what to expect or just what danger she is really in. Any thoughts would be appreciated, and thank you for reading. So this happened last night. I never thought I would go through something that I could share on this sub, but I did. My boyfriend and I live in an apartment building that is located in an alleyway behind a busy stretch of street and bars. It is not uncommon for people to be out panhandling or stumbling drunk late at night. We actually had a few whiskey and cokes at a bar close by and had walked home. I fell asleep naked in my bed because I had work early in the morning. My boyfriend figured we could use some Gatorades in the morning to prepare us for our work shift, so he left to go right across the street to the convenience store. He made a mistake by leaving the door unlocked, but figured he'd be gone just a few minutes. The store closed in 5 minutes anyway. Walking to the store, he says a man asked him for money. Happens all the time, but this particular man gave my boyfriend a weird feeling. The only thing I remember is my boyfriend shaking me awake and saying, "Are you okay? Are you okay?" I was confused. I told him yes. He says there was a man in this room. I thought he was joking at first, but he goes on to tell me that when he got back from the store, our apartment door was wide open. He knew something messed up was going on, and he enters the apartment into our living room. This strange man that he saw outside walks out of the room that I was asleep in. My boyfriend puts up his hands and tells the man that we are poor and we don't have anything, so it might be best if he just leaves. The man replies by saying in this deep, slow voice, "I was just looking for my little mouse. I was looking for my dog, my little mouse. Let me know if you find him." And he walks out. At that point, my boyfriend makes sure he is gone, locks the door, and goes on to wake me up. The guy stole my boyfriend's phone and rummaged through my purse. He didn't steal my phone because I was asleep with it under me to hear my alarm for work. All of our lights were on. The car was in the driveway. So creepy man on drugs trying to find his little mouse. Let's not meet.